Song number 2 in our recital is going to look here all the parts, and I'm going to start with a simple 3-string, 4-string, the simple Little Hands guitar version of this. Song has a little intro. And that's the step 1, what happens there. Each one of these chords is going to be held. These are not your typical, not always your typical chords, but more texture kind of things. The first one, you can do it like this if you want, if it makes it easier. It's a D major 7. And what we want to do is we want to put our finger across 3 strings. Strings 1 at the 2nd fret, string 2, and 3. And we're going to strum 4 strings. The next chord is an E minor 7. And the easiest way, I guess, to do it for our purposes would be this. I got one finger on the 4th string, 2nd fret, and I got another finger on the 2nd string, 3rd fret, and I can use any combination of fingers I want, and I'm going to strum 4 strings. So I have next is going to be an E7. And for our purposes, we're going to do a very simple E7. We're just going to put our pointer finger on the 3rd string, 1st fret. 1, 2, 3. 1st fret, and we're going to strum again 4 strings. And next, we're just going to add our middle finger, our ring, whatever's comfortable for you, on the 1st string, 1st fret, which gives us a diminished chord. So our whole intro looks like this. And that's the intro. Second half of the intro has that famous signature line. This is kind of complicated, so we're going to simplify this. We're going to start with our ring finger across 3 strings, and we're strumming 3 strings every time on every chord. On the chords, unless we're doing single notes. And I'm just moving to the 1st string, 5th fret. Sorry. I can do that to finish it off. That's the simple way. So I start with the 5th fret, 4th fret, and I finish on a B minor chord, which is pointer finger on the 1st string, 2nd fret, middle finger on the 2nd string, 3rd fret, ring finger on the 3rd string, 4th fret. So all together, is that. If you want to get a little fancier about it, you can do this. If you're up for the challenge of all the finger acrobatics that this thing requires. I start with the same chord, that sort of B minor thing. It's on the 7th fret. I move to this. I got my pointer finger on the 1st string, 5th fret, my pinky on the 2nd string, 7th fret, my ring finger on the 3rd string, 7th fret. So it's a very quick. You can even, if you want, start with the 1st chord actually like this. That makes the switch a little quicker. This is sort of an E chord. It looks just like a regular D, not a D7. I got my middle finger on the first string, 4th fret. My ring finger on the 2nd string, 5th fret, and my pointer finger on the 3rd string, 4th fret. As you can see, it's quite a finger workout. And finish it off with the same B minor that I showed you earlier. If this becomes too difficult, stick with the simple version, and I'll get you through this song for the performance. Okay, the verse, the main section. There's a lot of held chords here, so it shouldn't be too much of vocal finger acrobatics thing. We kind of stay on that D minor for a while. Once the singing come in, we start here. It's a lot of these chords have appeared in the intro, so they won't be new stuff to look at. This is the E chord basically. It's my middle finger on the 1st string, 4th fret, ring on the 2nd string, 5th fret, pointer on the 1st string, I'm sorry, the 3rd string, 4th fret, and we strum just three strings, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to strum it actually just once for every measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. This is the B minor chord. Pointer finger on the 1st string, 2nd, middle on the 2nd string, 3rd fret, ring on the 3rd string, 4th fret, and we're going to do 2 measures of that. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. And this is really everything that's going to be happening there on that verse. The chorus part is very similar to the intro. Basically, it starts the same way. And just adding a couple of chords afterwards. Yeah. Same trick as the intro, B minor on the 7th fret. Add the first pointer finger on the 1st string, 5th fret. And resolve that. 5, 4 to the B minor. The 2 chords we're going to add are in the E that we learned earlier in the verse. And then we're going to change to a sort of an E minor chord. We're going to keep our ring finger down where it's at. Our middle finger is going to go to where the pointer finger was on the 3rd string, 4th fret. And our pointer finger is going to land on the 1st string, 3rd fret. So we got we're going to do that again. Second time we do that, we're actually going to end it a little differently. This is a fun little riff. It starts on a G7, so we're going to have just our pointer finger on the 1st string, 1st fret. Can strum 3 or 4 strings. We're going to move our pointer finger to the 3rd string, first fret to get an E7, and again you can strum 3 or 4 strings. And we're going to finish it with the middle finger on, or middle finger is the best, on the 4th string, 2nd fret. This time we're going to try to strum 5 strings. That's when we're going to get that cool jazzy chord. If you want to just strum, sorry, that'll work just as fine as well. You can also keep it on 3 strings at a time. If this becomes too difficult, what you can do, you can do that. So I got the G7 actually with my middle finger, and I'm strumming 3 strings only. I get my pointer finger ready for the 3rd string 1st fret, that E7, and again I'm strumming just 3 strings, and then I just take those 3 fingers off. This is a different way to do it. If it simplifies because there's less finger jumping, then by all means feel free to use it. So the chorus all together. And there you have it. Another reason why it's good to keep this is if you look, I'm coming from that E chord in this shape, and I just got to slide my fingers back. They're staying in the same position. And makes the motion a little easier to catch. If you're up for tackling a little fancier chords, more advanced chords, you can try for this little arrangement of the verse and chorus. The verse is going to start simple enough. This is your E. It looks pointer finger on the 5th string, 2nd string 5th fret. Pointer on the 3rd string 4th, and ring on the 4th string 6th fret. This is going to be your E, and you're going to just slide that back for 2 frets to get a. This is actually a B minor 7 or a D. It'll work either way, and you can kind of alternate it between this chord and moving up here. I got my ring finger on strings 4, 3, 2 at the 7th fret. At the very last line of the verse, I actually resolved. It's one measure of this B minor 7 thing to an A. And I got my pointer finger on strings 4, 3, and 2 at the 2nd fret. So my verse is going to look like this. And finish it off. This is only if you really want to get fancy with it. Feel free to experiment with that. Chorus follows along very similar lines of what you're going to do in the on the verses on the intro, but we're going to use again fingerings. We're going to use fingerings here on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string. You can use that. It's a little fancier, but it sounds really good. So I got my pointer finger on the 2nd string 10th fret, my middle finger on the 3rd string 11th fret, my ring finger on the 4th string 12th fret, and I'm adding the pinky on the 2nd string 12 frets, and that way I can just pick it up. And I'm resolving it. I got my finger across on the 9th fret on strings 4, 3, and 2, resolving it to the 7th fret, strings 4, 3, and 2. This would be my E chord, again just like we had earlier in the verse. And I switched this for this E minor. My pointer finger is the one that stays put this time. My middle finger climbs up to the 4th string 5th fret. My ring finger is going to take the 2nd string 5th fret. And then those last hits, you can do that. Basically, I'm doing a G7. This looks like the same D shape that we had earlier, just move one string up. So I got 2nd string 3rd fret with my middle, 3rd string 4th fret with my ring, pointer fingers on the 4th string 3rd fret. I'm moving to that E. The E7 would be this. That might be a little too tricky. And finish it off on the E minor chord, but with added the 5th string open. So I get, sorry, for those little hits at the end of the verse. Again, this whole part is kind of tricky and complicated. Don't tackle it on unless you're really bored and have a lot of extra time and are willing to take a risk on that. So, I want to kind of show you how these parts sound on the instrument you're gonna that sometimes they're going to be played on electric guitar and bass. I'm going to start with a verse. Remember these chords? Fun little fact you can do here on the verse with this. Give it a little bit more of a creepy feel. I'm using the tremolo arm, and I'm very gently tugging it up and down. It's not, I mean, up and down in reference for the guitar, like towards the guitar and away from it. This is not going to work. It's a very light touch. If I try to do too much, I'm exaggerating the sound. It doesn't really work. And the other thing, gets the strings out of tune very quickly. Let's go a little bit further deep. There's a cool parts there, those little kind of syncopated, muted. These kinds of tones that are happening in the song, and we're going to do a simplified version of this. The way it's going to look, we got our ring finger on the 4th string 4th fret. We're going to play that note twice. We're going to go to the 4th string 2nd fret one time. add the go back to the ring finger on the 4th fret, so I have, and then repeat those last 2 notes again. So I have 4, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, and we're going to finish it off on the 3rd string 2nd fret. If you want to do it with fingers, whichever fingers you want, it's all good. The key thing is to get a very muted kind of short note, not letting it ring. When I'm doing it with a pick, what I'm doing is I'm putting the palm, right this part of the hand, right on the saddles, right on this white thing where the string stops touching strings. By the way, if you want to use your pinky for that first note, if it's easier to reach, feel free to do so. The key is to find that sweet spot. If you move your hand too far back, you're not stopping the strings. If you move it too forward, you're completely choking the string. It's finding that nice sweet spot. I try to lean against the pegs if I'm playing an acoustic guitar. And there's your part. Okay, for the chorus, we're going to basically play a very similar part to what we did. I just showed you, but we're going to change the notes a little bit just so we can make the chorus a little different than the verse. And this one's going to actually revolve around this B minor chord that we've been dealing with all song. I'm going to hold that B minor chord and kind of use it as a guide for the notes that I have to reach. I start here on the 3rd string, 4th fret, and I go to the 3rd string, 2nd fret. This is the one place where I have to reach a little bit. And as soon as I go back to the 4th fret, this finger is free to go backward to hold the chord. And then I play the 2nd string, 3rd fret. I got the 1st string open, and then I'm going to put the finger back on. So I got, this gives me a little more time to relocate my pointer finger back and forth on the 1st and 3rd string. Again, the key is to get that good mute happening. And that's your part for the chorus. So let me play some of those electric guitar parts on electric guitar, so you can get an idea of how they feel. They're going to work on either acoustic or electric guitar. Either one would work fine. If we have enough electric guitars, we'll give it to everybody, and we'll see what happens. So our first part, the verse. The chorus. as you can see, I can also double that bass part on the electric guitar. And you can do that again, use that muted technique of putting your hand, your palm, right at that sweet spot where the string stops touching the bridge. And using two different fingers for the two different notes and two different strings, so you can easily move from one part to another. Going back to the muted guitar parts, there it is. With fingers. You really got to find a position where you can actually mute the strings and pluck the strings. Because if you do this, the strings are ringing, and that's, you're losing the drive of the song. This becomes especially tricky on the chorus, because you actually have to move your hand up and down here to get the mute happening on the first strings. And that's what you do. I want to go back to the verse. There's a cool little thing I want to show you to do for those long held chords. If you do have this guitar, or a guitar that has a tremolo like this, you can do that. The motion here is very subtle. It's a very light pressing down of the whammy bar handle, just to get a little bit of a sound happening here, a little bit of a vibration. Yeah. If you try to do it too much, A, it's tasteless, doesn't work with the song, and B, can get the guitars out of tune very quickly, and we don't want that. You can use that on the chorus as well. Not on these chords. Not on that, because those have to be very sharp and short. But there's you have it on the electric guitar. Finish it off with the bass part. Bass part, 99% of what you'll be doing is this. And you can use your fingers, one finger like this, thumb, or pick to do it. The key is to be able to do it over and over again without stopping, because this is the line that drives the song. Just over and over again. One of the things to watch out for here is to use two different fingers. That way it's easier to get from one note to the other without having to jump around too much. I'm going to start on the 5th string open. I'm going to move to the 5th string 2nd fret. I'm going to move to the 4th string open, Fourth string, second fret, and notice they use a different finger than the one I used earlier. Because that makes it very easy to just send that original finger back to the fifth string, second fret. And that's 90% of what you're going to do on the verse and on the chorus. Okay. When we get to the end of the chorus, when those hits are happening, that's when we're going to put a couple of little different notes. We're going to start here on the 6th string 3rd fret. We're going to move to the 6th string open, and we're going to finalize it on the 5th string open. So I got. Notice how the first two notes are cut short. I can use my fingers to do that. The last note, you do want to let it ring. Altogether, it sounds like that, and that's how you're going to get the sound that you want to do. Feel free to also experiment on that, holding all the chord notes together. Either way, there you have it. Of course, we're going to put also the bass part on an actual bass on this video. Bass, as I always mention, is longer. That's why you have to kind of get used to, very comfortable with it. And some of the fingerings that feel comfortable on a small guitar might not work quite that well on a bass, but you kind of have to work through it and do it. This is your main line. Notice how I'm using again what I call a walking motion with my fingers. I'm switching fingers almost every time, and the notes are the same as if we're just not having those two extra strings. So I got, this time it's 3rd string, even though, open, 3rd string 2nd fret, 2nd string open, 2nd string 2nd fret, and finishing it off with the 3rd string 2nd fret. Again, I'm using two different fingers, so a finger can always hold down and fall onto the fretboard and play it, rather than me lifting up and switching location. Rather than doing this, which is a big jump, you can use your thumb too, or pick. Okay. One of the things to pay attention for here is that very last note, or all the notes, we should really make sure that we don't let anything ring. When we have this going, you see how those notes kind of collide and take away from the sound that we want to get. Every note, after I play it, I either put my finger back on the string, my right hand finger here, to kind of stop it and let it and create the space that we need to create the next note. I'm also helping my hand here by lifting up the fingers just enough to let go of the pressure, so I'm just touching the string, it can't vibrate, and I can get silence out of the note. And let's add at the end of the chorus, and this is the only note that we're going to actually let ring. 4th string 3rd fret, 4th string open, and 3rd string open, and let it ring. And so on and so on.